Okay, so picture this. October 7th, 2025. Suddenly the internet just lights up,
Uh-huh.
all focused on this one figure, Dolly Parton, someone who feels almost universally loved, right? And
Yeah.
she's caught in this whirlwind health scare.
Yeah, it happened incredibly fast.
So today we're diving into that firestorm. It really kicked off with a headline, something like, Dolly Parton's sister opens up after fans express concern.
Hmm.
Our mission here isn't really about, the medical specifics. It's about the communication breakdown. How does a really heartfelt, private message, a prayer request on Facebook, suddenly become this global media frenzy?
It's such a fascinating case study, honestly, because the speed, like you said, the way it just exploded tells us so much about celebrity today, about authenticity, and about what happens when context gets lost online. We're essentially tracking that chain reaction, how Dolly went from, maybe a little under the weather in her family's eyes to basically triggering a global emergency watch almost overnight. And the public reaction itself, the sheer scale of it, shows this incredibly deep emotional connection people feel with her. Why that happened is, well, it's really worth exploring.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that spark. The Facebook post itself, what did it actually say? It came from Freida Parton, Dolly's sister.
Mm-hmm.
And reading it, you can tell it's coming from a place of genuine faith. She wrote about being up all night praying for Dolly, saying she hasn't been feeling her best lately. Pretty standard sisterly concern, maybe.
On the surface, yeah. But then came the crucial part.
Right, the part that really seemed to ignite things, the call to action. Freida asked, quote, all of the world that loves her to be prayer warriors and pray with me.
And that specific phrase, prayer warriors, that's where the interpretation gap really opens up. We need to unpack that language.
Okay.
Within the Parton family's world, their specific evangelical Christian background, prayer warriors, isn't just, asking for good thoughts. It's serious. It implies intense spiritual action, like mobilizing an army for a spiritual battle.
So it signifies a real struggle, something major.
Exactly. It implies a formidable challenge is being faced. It's potent language within that context.
So why did the wider world, the media, instantly jump to life-threatening emergency? Why didn't that cultural context filter the message?
Well, I think the sheer scale of Dolly's celebrity just overwhelmed the nuance. Once a message like that hits a massive platform like Facebook, from someone so close to an icon, it gets stripped of its original context. That's what we mean by context collapse.
Oh, okay.
The intensity of the language warriors that immediately signals severity to a global audience. The media isn't really digging for theological meaning in that moment. They're scanning for crisis signals.
Right. They see warriors and Dolly Parton connect the dots to emergency.
Precisely. And that powerful, authentic phrase becomes the perfect hook. It fuels this sort of blitz of anxiety. The very sincerity, the faith-based language, ironically became its biggest liability outside its home environment.
So the thing we often admire about the Parton brand, that authenticity, that realness, actually backfired here. It became an obstacle because it felt too real, too raw, maybe.
In a way, yes. It seemed to confirm the worst fears for an audience that, and this is crucial, was already feeling a bit anxious about her.
Right. This didn't happen in a vacuum.
No, definitely not. The ground was already fertile for this kind of panic. That emotional sensitivity had been building for months.
Yeah, that's such a key point. There's a huge wave of anxiety in October. It wasn't just about one Facebook post. It was more like the culmination of things, this growing sense of vulnerability around Dolly that had been building all year.
Exactly right. If you look at the bigger picture, this sense of vulnerability around Dolly, who was 79 at the time, had several layers. I think the first and probably the deepest factor was the personal loss. Her husband, Carl Dean, passed away back in March 2025. They'd been married nearly 60 years, and he was famously private.
A huge loss after so long together.
Monumental loss. And Dolly, who often seems almost superhuman, suddenly felt very human, very vulnerable in the public eye because of that grief. It triggered this huge, almost protective wave of empathy from people.
You felt people grieving with her.
Absolutely. And when the public feels that connection through grief, their emotional investment in that person's well-being just skyrockets.
So that set an emotional baseline.
Yeah.
And then came the professional stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which really seemed to amplify things.
Yeah, that added fuel to the fire. Dolly rarely cancels anything. She's known for her work ethic. But in September 2025, just before Freida's post, there were two pretty major interruptions.
Okay, what were they?
First, she had to miss an appearance at Dollywood. The reason given was an infection related to a kidney stone, and doctors advised her not to travel. Okay, maybe plausible on its own.
But unusual for her.
Very unusual. But then came the really big one. The postponement of her Las Vegas residency, Dolly. Live in Las Vegas. This wasn't just pushing it back a few
No,
weeks.
it was significant, wasn't it?
Huge. They push it back nearly a full year, from December 2025 all the way to September 2026. Canceling or postponing a major residency like that is a massive deal, financially and logistically.
Wow. Yeah, that signals something more than just a minor bug.
Definitely. It suggests a need for a serious extended break. And while Dolly tried to manage it with her usual humor, she joked about needing her 100,000-mile checkup, she did mention unspecified health challenges that needed a few procedures.
Okay.
So you stack it all up. Her age, the recent grief, the specific mention of kidney stones before, and now this major residency cancellation. The audience was already primed, they were sensitive, maybe even a little worried.
So Freida's post, with that intense prayer warrior's language, doesn't so much create the panic.
It landed right on top of all that existing anxiety.
It basically just confirmed the fears that were already simmering below the surface.
Yeah.
And the media echo chamber did the rest.
Precisely. It hit fertile ground and boom.
So, okay, the fire alarm is pulled. Panic spreads. What happens next? The Parton team has to jump into crisis management mode, right? Try and calm things down.
Absolutely. And they moved fast. We saw a pretty clear two-stage approach to try and de-escalate the situation and regain control of the narrative.
What was the first step?
Well, the first move came from the source of the initial panic itself, Freida Parton. Later that same day, she posted again on Facebook. It was a classic clarification attempt, trying to walk things back.
How did she phrase it?
She started by saying something like, I want to clear something up. I didn't mean to scare anyone or make it sound so serious, trying to immediately lower the temperature.
And did she change the language she used about Dolly's health?
Yes, crucially. That more alarming phrase, hasn't been feeling her best, got softened significantly to the much more mundane, a little under the weather, big difference.
Huge difference. And the prayer warriors.
That got reframed too. She presented it as simply nothing more than a little sister asking for prayers for her big sister, trying to reposition it as a private, loving gesture that just got misinterpreted.
Taking it from a global emergency back down to a family matter.
Exactly, shifting the frame. But that was only part one.
Right, because the official statement came next, didn't it? From Dolly's manager, Ollie Rowland.
Yes, and his statement was quite masterful from a PR perspective. He did two key things at once, provided concrete facts and deliberately reframed the entire incident.
Okay, facts first. What did he say?
He grounded everything by confirming the specific medical issue. Dolly was treated for kidney stones and needed a procedure. That immediately takes the fear from unknown, possibly terrible illness to known, generally manageable condition.
Right, contains the problem.
Yeah.
Makes it less scary.
Definitely. But then came the really interesting part, the reframing. Rowland explicitly stated that Freida's post got quite a bit blown out of proportion.
That feels like a potentially tricky move, doesn't it? Basically saying the sister, who posted out of genuine concern, was being overly dramatic.
It absolutely carries risk. You risk invalidating the sister's feelings, maybe even causing friction within the family, or alienating fans who shared that initial concern.
So why do it?
Well, I think the calculation was that the risk of letting the Dolly is seriously ill narrative continue was far greater. Rowland essentially chose to sacrifice the image of perfect family unity to protect Dolly's core brand image from being defined by illness.
So the message becomes, the crisis wasn't medical, it was a communication mishap. A well-intentioned but maybe slightly over-the-top family message amplified by the media.
Precisely. It shifts the focus.
Yeah.
And it really highlights just how complex managing a massive celebrity brand is now. It's not just about the star anymore.
You mean managing the whole family?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to account for the entire dynasty. You've got Freida communicating sincerely from her faith perspective. But then you also have other family members, like her sister Stella Parton, who's known for being very outspoken, sometimes politically completely unfiltered on places like Twitter.
Right. So any family member with a social media account is potentially another voice for the brand, whether official or not.
They become unpredictable communication nodes. The official PR team isn't the only gatekeeper anymore. Management has to be ready to react instantly to things that bubble up from within the family circle itself.
So it demands this constant vigilance, this rapid response playbook, treating even unintentional family posts almost like a planned announcement or even a scandal.
It's a constant balancing act, and if you're finding this kind of breakdown of how Hollywood and celebrity image management works fascinating, make sure you've hit subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. #tech outro.
So, looking back at this whole whirlwind few days, it really shows how thin that line is now
Yeah.
between a celebrity's private life and public knowledge. A heartfelt whisper between sisters becomes this global alert almost instantly.
Yeah, the platform and the audience's existing feelings just amplify everything.
But that huge reaction, that blitz of anxiety, as you called it, well, probably incredibly stressful for everyone involved. It also kind of reaffirmed something powerful, didn't it?
Yeah.
It showed the incredibly deep, almost protective, you could say familial bond the public feels with Dolly Parton.
Absolutely. It was this massive, unintentional, but undeniable affirmation of her cultural significance. The world demonstrated just how much it cares about her well-being. The response itself confirmed her icon status.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But it leaves us with this really tricky question for the 21st century, doesn't it? We value authenticity so much now, it's like currency. But how can an icon like Dolly maintain those genuine, intimate family connections, the very things that often fuel that authenticity, without those private moments becoming the next international breaking news flash?
Right. How do you keep the real part real without it constantly triggering global headlines?
Exactly. It's a paradox. Something maybe for you to think about next time you see one of those celebrity health scares sparked by a single social media post.